comments here, I think. Okay, cool. So what I want to do is just turn this into just the front end portion or small front end portion of a login system, again, without connecting to anything on the back end. We'll just make it so that we've already done a lot of the work here. We've done so the user can tap in their username and password, submit. The page will not get submitted anywhere because of the prevent default. And the contact, or the contact information, but the username and so on is being stored in local storage, which we can then use to create a function that says, hey, if this local storage property has been set, then add some content here and make the login form disappear. Because when you're logged in, you don't need the login form, right? So up here, I think in the header, we'll just say welcome, and then we'll put in the username that they've typed in. And then we'll make a logout button, and when they tap on it, we'll attach an event to that, which does the opposite, which clears the local storage and then refreshes the page. And when the page is refreshed, then of course this stuff will disappear and the login form will come back, or the sign-in form. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to make the function first. No, I lied. I'm going to put a little bit into the HTML first because we want to create just a div in the header to put stuff into. We don't have to. We could create a div with the JavaScript, but might as well just go ahead and make one now. Right? So up here on the top of the header, I'm just going to make a div. Remember, div is what you do when you just have a generic bucket that you need to put things into, and there's no particular semantic meaning you need to make it. It's not a header, it's not a nav, it's not a footer, none of that stuff. It's just a division. That's it. And we'll give it an ID to make it easy to grab with either CSS or JavaScript. So we will call this log, right? Because when they're logged in, this is where the stuff will show up. And right now, of course, it doesn't look like anything. A generic container will not have any formatting until you've either formatted it or put some stuff into it. All right, back to the JavaScript. So I'm going to put the function. Let's see, I guess this is still in the same section on jQuery form processing, so I'll put it right above there. JavaScript, I don't have to, by the way. I could put the function down underneath here. JavaScript, one of the weird things about it is something called hoisting, and I'm not sure to what extent other programming language may use of this, but functions are hoisted, which means that you can declare a function after the code that uses or calls the function, and it will be fine. JavaScript immediately reads the page and takes any function it finds and hoists it up to the top of the page, basically. But just to make it a little bit easier to read logically, let's go ahead and put it here. I'm going to use a function declaration here, and we will call this function logger. I very often forget to put these in there, but you got to, or else it won't work. So function logger, I don't think we have a variable that we need to pass in here. And remember the function that we're looking for. We need to test for if the local storage has the username, right? This is what we were saying. So if the local storage.username exists, then it will put this stuff upstairs here. So all this stuff is going to be inside a big condition. So if, and then parentheses, .username. And right now we're not even testing for what the password is or anything. Just does the username exist? Is there a local storage.username in local storage? And if so, then we will run this code here. So this is one of those things where you don't have to say if local storage.username equals true or anything like that. Just this tests for the existence of it, right? If local storage.username. Nice and tidy. So the first thing we want to do, if the person is logged in, is hide the login form because they don't need to see that. So I will switch back to jQuery here. And since, jQuery makes it easier to select for elements, as you may have noticed. You can just use the $ syntax instead of having to declare a variable and then set it to, document.query select or whatever. But I can just do $ and then the parentheses, and then let's see, it's sign in. Yes, sign in with a dash. So hash is how you select for IDs. So you might have, like, so how do we make this thing disappear from the page? Well, you've already seen how we do it. In the sandbox, one of the things that we played with was CSS method, right? So we can do CSS and then display none with this. So .css, and then in parentheses, gets 2 arguments. Display is the CSS property, and then none is the value. So if I save that and go over here and refresh, well, nothing's going to happen because all we've done is set this inside a function. We haven't actually called the function yet. So actually, I'll stop coming over here to the browser to test things for just a moment. But yeah, this is the first thing that we'll do. So if local storage.username exists, then hide the sign-in form. And that's what'll do it right there. Then we got to put some stuff upstairs. And it's going to be inside this logged ID div. And so let's select for that. Hash logged. And what I'm going to do, I could use either text, which is how you set plain text, so I need the dot though, .text, or I could use .html, which does inner HTML. And I'm going to use .html because that's the way that we're going to be able to add a button at the same time, which is not just plain text. It's not just text content, it's an actual HTML element. So that you'd have to use HTML in jQuery or inner HTML in native JavaScript. So we'll do welcome, comma, and then we have to do some concatenation here because instead of just typing in like welcome Bob, right, we don't know what the username is, so we have to grab local storage, right, local storage.username. So I will do this across multiple lines. Remember that plain old-fashioned strings in JavaScript cannot be broken up onto multiple lines. I cannot do that or it breaks. It doesn't like it. So there is a kind of string where you can separate it onto 2 lines like that in JavaScript, but it's not either the singles or the double quotes. It's the temporal literals, which we haven't really gone into. So concatenate it with a plus, and we will do local storage.username, and then another plus. And we can put like an exclamation, something like that, and then let's make a button. Like so. Offering them to log out. So once they're logged in, they can log out. And let's put an ID on this button so that we can grab it easily like we do with the log. So button, not button equals, button ID equals log out. Makes sense to me. I guess sign out would be more reasonable since we do the sign in, but I'm going to call this log out instead. Now the last thing remaining to do in this function is to add an event to this logout button so that when the user clicks on it, the appropriate things happen, which is the opposite, right? We want the local storage to be cleared, page to refresh, and then the login to pop back in and go. Of course, the sign in will show up as soon as the page gets refreshed, so we don't need to worry about that. And I think we can just put it all into the same condition here. Oh, the conditional. I don't see any problem with that. Let's go ahead and do it. So do the space bar indent, didn't I? I don't like doing that. There we go. Okay, so all this stuff inside here, and then we can do logged, so, or no, log out, sorry. So this is the ID of the button that hasn't even been created yet, but it gets created here, then we can attach a method to, or a click method to it here. Dot click function, just like before. Okay, so what 2 things need to happen here? One, we're going to clear the local storage, and then we're going to refresh the page. So local storage is easy to clear. Let me go back over here to the browser and show you. So right now, if we type in local storage, as we know, except I didn't spell it right. Let's try this again. There we go. That stuff is there. And if you ever want to get rid of that stuff, which sometimes you do, as we're going to want to do, you do local storage dot clear as a method, so it gets the parentheses. And there we go. And then if we go to local storage again, then it's got nothing in it. It's linked 0. It's got no properties or values. So that's what we're going to do. That's going to be the first one here. So if this logout button has been clicked, we will do local storage dot clear like that. And then how do you refresh the page? Look this little number that's useful in a lot of situations. Location, I always want to do window.reload, but location.reload is the native way of doing it. So this is what we've done. So if local storage.username exists, hide the sign-in form. And then inside that logged div, set the HTML to be a little welcome message that includes the username for local storage and a logout button, concatenated together with plus. And then on this new logout button, attach a click event handler that will clear the local storage and reload the page. So now it just remains to call this. Now I'm going to show you something else in jQuery. As soon as you start, really I should have done it from the beginning, but you know, it's not technically necessary. If you start calling in functions like this, then that's when I start thinking, okay, maybe I should go ahead and do this thing. But it's kind of an initializer function in jQuery. It looks like this, where you just start off with the anonymous function like this inside of the dollar function, composed inside of there, and then just like that, and then put the stuff that you want to run inside of there. So let me go ahead and put it in here. So it looks like so. Now an older version of this that you will see a lot still is this guy right here. If you will see the document object and then .ready and then function and then like this, and then you would see that same code posted inside of there. So this is the older, not red, sorry, .ready. This is the older version, document.ready. This is the newer version. They're aliases of each other. They do exactly the same thing, but this one is still recommended, whereas this one is no longer recommended. It's just slightly older and it's a little bit hard to remember. This one's easy to remember. You can hardly forget it. So, but you will see this one sometimes, a lot of the time still. So what is it that these two things do? Well, this one here will give you a little bit of a hint. It's when the document is ready. So what does that mean? It means when all of the HTML elements and their content has loaded, but any dependencies have not been called in, necessarily been called in or finished loading yet. So like images may not have completed finishing loading, or videos if they're streaming or whatever may have not have finished loading, but all the rest of the content of the page is there. And then the stuff that's inside of here will not fire until that has happened. There is a way to do this in vanilla JavaScript too, and it's slightly more verbose, so I can't remember exactly. It's like DOM content ready or something like that. But anyway, you can look it up. There's a way. If you look up like document ready JavaScript equivalent or something, you'll find it. But anyway, this is the short and sweet way to do it right here. So I think that we can put this, if I'm not mistaken, and now the function does not need to go inside of there. Remember that this function gets read but does not get executed until it is called. As long as we call it inside of this ready function, then this will, it'll be fine. It won't run until the page loads. And I should mention right off the bat, there are a lot of people, a lot of developers that say, hey, as long as your script tag is happening down here at the bottom of the page, then you can be pretty sure that the page is finished loading before it loads up this JavaScript file. So as long as you put it down there, it's not even really necessary. I don't know. I've always kind of done it, especially if it were calling in scripts from elsewhere on the page or something like that. But you'll find a lot of people who say that you don't even need this as long as you put your script at the bottom of the page. So having said that, I think this can all go inside the submit.
Hey, Just a heads up, Professor, you have an extra apostrophe on line 48.
Nope. That's the right amount.
The space apostrophe at the end of that line?
Yeah, that's a string. And that's a string. And then I've got a third string down here.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
No worries.
I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't realize that was the closing string. I closed it before the comma like an idiot.
Well, no, it makes sense because you've got kind of like a list of things, and normally you would separate those with commas or something. But
Right.
yeah, and this might be my own coding style too. There's plenty of people who would put the plus operator at the end of these strings, or not the strings, sorry, the end of these lines instead. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I've always kind of done it like this.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It worked.
Cool.
That's all that matters.
Okay, so we still need to call this function here, function logger. So I think that we can just put it inside submit event here. I think this will do everything we need it to. Let's see here. If not, if it doesn't work, then we'll put it somewhere else, but I think this will do it. So now it's finally time to try it. And I'm going to go back over here. And when I refresh, nothing's going to happen. Remember, we cleared the local storage here before we did anything. So let's go ahead and try putting in some stuff here. Look at these crazy save values. Let's see. Lou the frog. And then another one of my crazy passwords. And then yeehaw. And did it work? It did. So it says welcome Lou the frog up top. And it gave me a logout button. And if I log out, that disappears. Oh, I didn't check to see if this disappeared. Did it? Lou the monkey. Yeehaw, and yes, it disappeared. And it would probably be good to go ahead. I'm not going to do it right now, but it would be good to additionally, because it was kind of confusing down here, it'd be good to like take you to the top of the page as well when that happens. That would be easy, but we'll stop it here. So there's Lou the monkey, log out. One thing else I want to check is I want to open this up in a new window and make sure that's still working. And it does not, because logger is not inside. It's not being called. Okay, so let's see, what shall we do? We may have to move this. So it's working within the same tab, no problem. If this is all we need to make work, then boom, that's working just fine both ways. But when we opened up a new tab, even though I hadn't logged out, it wasn't showing that properly. So I wonder if this needs to be called. I hope I don't have to call it twice. I hate doing that. But I don't know, I may have to actually. Let's try calling it down here. Yeah, it's not working. So we may have to call this inside and outside of the event. Or you know what? First thing, before I do anything, let's try it here. Okay, log out. Okay.
Odd on the design front.
No, it's not working. Okay, so I think we do have to have it both inside and outside of the event here, which is irritating, but sometimes it's necessary. So okay, if we do that, then I don't see any reason why this shouldn't work. No, I don't want you to save my password, thank you. Okay, so here we go. And I'm logged in, log out. Move the bike. Log in, okay, that's working. Now I'm going to try opening it in a new tab. Should be logged in, and then I can log out here and here. Okay, now it's working. So there may be a a slightly more satisfactory solution than that. I hate doing that, but sometimes it's necessary. All right, cool. So I want to repeat again, the stuff that we just did is not going to be on the test. The only thing that's going to be on the test JavaScript-wise is what we had before, which was this stuff. That was it. We hadn't done any of this stuff, any of this logger function. We did not do. We did not call the logger function, obviously, if we hadn't written it and everything. Just so you guys know, I don't want you to spend time studying to do this kind of stuff if you don't actually need to do it on the test. Just wanted you to see it. So any questions about that?
I screwed up somewhere. If you can just hang out right there for a minute.
Sure thing.
Click the clear should be working.
And did you get this into the HTML?
Yeah.
This div? Okay.
Yeah, I found out.
Oh, you
I
figured it out?
found out what it was. Yep.
Cool. I like it when that happens.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, other questions? I will stop the recording and I will put this up for you with yet another note that this will not be